Today I'm here with Dennise Jones. Dennise is a seasoned fitness professional. She's been in the business for almost 20 years. And one of the things that Dennise does is very interesting is she does virtual classes, virtual fitness classes for people. And so I wanted to talk about virtual fitness training and how it may differ from live fitness training and get her insights and hopefully give people who are watching this some ideas on how they might start their own online fitness business as well. So Dennise, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to talk about this. It's been a great transition that really helped.
Yeah. How did you start doing the online classes? What prompted you to start doing that?
Well, COVID, to be honest. Ironically, COVID made me do something that my clients had been asking me to do for a while. I actually taught group fitness and personal training in person at gyms and so forth, and my own little studio here. And I had some clients that had been moving and so forth, and they wanted to stay with me, and they're like, oh, if you were online, we could do this, I could stay and do this. And COVID hit. Yeah. And it changed a lot of people's lives, and for my business, the gym where I was teaching shut down, like many did. And I had to figure out, how do I continue to do this, because it was my full-time work, passion, and also I was doing classes for a school for their teachers locally, and I wanted to keep them going because we finally had something that was working for them. And the school said, well, if you go online, we'll keep the grant going and we'll keep doing this. And I was like, okay, now I have to go online. If I'm going to have a business and do what I need to do and help these people that have been benefiting, I've got to do this. And that's what did it. I immediately said, okay, jump in both feet. I had no choice. So that's how I ended up here, and here we are, in 2025, and still going.
That's phenomenal. That really is. So interesting. You're working with teachers and they are getting a grant to pay for you to do these classes with them.
That was for a while. The school that I had that with, their grant paid for their classes when we were in person. And then they continued for a while when we went virtual. And it was great because with teachers it's a little different. They're busy people. Who needs to tell them, right? They are so busy, and finding a chance where they can stop and get some exercise for themselves, right? Do something for themselves that actually helps them when they go back into that classroom, right? And we were able to do that, and I wanted that to continue at most, right? And then what happened was, when the grants ran out, many of the teachers stayed with me. And that was a great feeling because they saw the benefit and they saw the timing, and it worked. Unfortunately, COVID made me have to go back to work at a full-time job during the day. So I went back into corporate America like I am, but I wanted to stay passionately teaching fitness, and going online helped me do that. So now I work my full-time, 9-to-5 job, and then I teach fitness at night and on the weekends again, which is how I started, except in person.
Wow, that's phenomenal. When you're doing your online classes, what platforms are you using? Is this a Zoom or what are you using?
I had to keep it, keep it simple, stupid. I had to keep it so simple. Zoom. I immediately signed up for Zoom on the free 30 minutes because I needed to do it fast. And then as I learned about the platform, and I said, you know what, my classes, I want them to be a little longer. So I signed up and paid for it, and could have a little more control over what I was doing with Zoom and have longer classes if I need to, and some other things I have coming up. So I use Zoom to teach the classes, and then I use, and my personal training as well. My personal training clients, we have a set time for them to go on Zoom with me. And then I use a platform called studiobookings.com, which is what I use to register people for my virtual studio. And they can purchase their class credits, assign them to whatever classes they want to take. They can see the class platform, and it was great because it integrated right with my website. That it's on there, so people can just go to my website, and then they can see the class calendar and click on that, and it'll go right over to my studio booking studio, where they can purchase. I didn't have to worry about any of the, taking money or anything like that. They set that all up, and it was the least expensive also, which is what I was trying to do, find the quickest and least expensive way to do that as I'm just coming into this before I go and spend tons of money to do something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the studio booking website, they take the payments as well.
Yes. you sign up with them, and they use in the background. Stripe is what most use to verify credit cards and all that stuff. But they take everything set up for my group fitness people to purchase their class credits online. That way I'm not involved unless they need me to get involved, right? With my personal training clients, I don't actually have them buying personal training because, you know, they're two separate entities when it comes to regulations and paperwork and making sure all those types of things. So I do keep that separate. With the only thing I do is I go on when they renew their packages or when they do something for personal training. They do that directly with me, and then I go in and I put the credits in there so that the platform can still track when they've used them, which has been one of the biggest helps, because I used to do that all on, by hand with an Excel spreadsheet. I don't have to anymore. So that has been one of the biggest help because I work all day and then teach all night. So I do that with my personal training clients. They still get every reminder saying, hey, your session's going to start in 15 minutes. And they have all of that information. But on my group fitness side, it's a great platform because it sends them out those reminders. It lets them know how many credits they have left. It does everything that I was doing by hand for me. And it was only $25 a month. And I said, for that, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. I noticed on your website you have an app for members. Is that the app?
That also came with the studio bookings, which was phenomenal because they can download a link, an app to their phone or to their device that they can go on and they can see what classes they're booked into. They can check out of a class, and I got to set up. You know what? For my business, I wanted, if one person shows up, I'm teaching a class. So, but you can set it up to say, you know what, if less than 5 show up, you determine that, which is what I love. But I said if one person shows up, but I do have it set up so that if no one signed up within the hour, well, class is canceled because I'm going to go do something else. There's too much going on. But at least one person signs up, the class is on the board. I can go in, cancel the class if I need to, if no one signed up. And it's worked out really well because they track everything and people can see right on their phone. The other great thing was I have some group fitness participants that need to print out while their insurance company won't pay me directly or anything, or if they're in a challenge, like one was in a challenge for her job, I believe. She asked me, can you print out my history so I can show I've been in class? I'm like, oh, sure. I can print out the history. I know when they've come, what classes they took. So it's helped them with that as well.
Yeah, when I saw you had an app, I thought to myself, gee whiz, how did you make the app? You didn't have to.
I didn't have to.
So before all the craziness of the pandemic, you were actually teaching live classes. Now you're doing classes on Zoom. What was the biggest challenge when you went online for the first time and you were like, there's nobody in the class with me? And how are you getting the same energy that you would have when you're in the room with people?
It was a challenge to do that because this camera, I am not a big fan of being in front of the camera. I'm one of those behind the scenes person, and people used to laugh and say, Dennise, you're teaching classes in front of people all the time. How are you challenged with this? And I said, it's different. One of the biggest things when I taught classes live is I've always believed in engaging with your participants, right? I walked around the room and I would look at somebody, I would help somebody do a move or something. I'd say, hey, can I help you? I see you're doing this. I can't do that to that extent on Zoom. If the class is smaller, like one person shows up, I can watch and they kind of get a private class, but you really can't do that a heck of a lot. So that's, for me, was the biggest challenge because that feedback, as I see somebody getting it, and now they're doing the move and they'll say something like, you mean if I do it this way, I'm pushing through my chest and not through my shoulders? And I go, yes, I'm not getting that all the time now. So for me, that was the hardest thing. As far as the teaching the class, that's the simple thing. If you know how to teach in person, you can teach. But if you're a person like me who thrives off of that feedback and that connection, that was a challenge for me. But honestly, anybody who knows how to teach a group fitness class, if you just stay focused on that and teach your class the way you teach it, giving the right cues, making sure that you let people know you can't Big thing is you can't be silent. You've got to give people cues. So if you struggle with cueing, that's where I would suggest somebody really help get a little better at that. Reminding people, when you do a squat, how you're squatting. When you're doing a push-up, how you're doing the push-up. Because some people who are taking your online classes may not know proper form. So you've got, Mary Jane, who's taken a fitness class for the first time, is joining your class, and she doesn't know that when she squats, she's not supposed to be leaning into her knees, and now she's got knee issues because she's been taking class and she's never had somebody tell her what's going on. So that was the hardest thing for me, is getting that feedback, but also remembering to speak those cues and so forth is the hardest part. But the teaching part, if you know how to teach, you know how to teach.
When you're teaching live in front of people, there is that sense of community with the people in the room. They know each other. How is that different with the Zoom class where there may be people who don't know each other? How do you keep that community going?
That can be challenging, and that's a big thing, because one of the reasons my classes were successful in the gym was because we were a fitness family. We always talked about that. Whenever I started class, I'd say, anyone new? And those who were, say, oh yeah, I get a response, or I met them ahead of the class, I would say, welcome to our fitness family. And that was the community we created in all my classes. Doing that online, fortunately, I had enough people who transitioned to online with me. That was the biggest boon. When I got the noise out that here I am online now, you can still be with my class. So I carried that into Zoom. But when I have someone new, when they sign up on the platform I have, I know they've signed up. Right? I get a notification that I have a new member. So what I try to do is let that new member know. I may shoot them an email or something and say, hey, welcome to my virtual studio. If you have any questions, reach out to me. And when we get online and we start the class, I started early and I say, oh, we have a new member joining us, And if that person, we've already talked and they said I can use their name, I'm like, oh, why don't you welcome Julie to the class? Or why don't you welcome, and of course that's scalable, because if you have a huge class, it can be challenging. But that's how I do it with the scope of my classes, is I just let them know ahead of time, I'm here. If you need help, I'm here. And also after class, if you had struggled with anything, let me know. I can help give you some cues. But in the class, my people that have been coming forever are always, hi, welcome to the family type of thing, and be prepared. That's the biggest thing they say, be prepared. Did she tell you? And I just laugh it off, And then we just have fun. And we focus on having fun and supporting each other.
That's excellent. How do you balance the online class of people who may have different fitness levels? You have people who are low end, maybe just starting from scratch, and people who've been with you for years. How do you modify those programs? Is it the same as you would do in a real life class with people when you're in front of them, or different?
It's primarily the same.
Okay.
If I were teaching a group fitness class at the gym, you're going to have new people that are coming into your class for the very first time. And you're going to have people who have been there forever and they know every move you ever call in the space of time, right? I go back to that education we get, especially taking those classes with AAAI and with you and with Mike and with, the different folks that are teaching us about issues and overcoming them. That's one of the greatest things I loved about training at AAAI is when I got certified, I wasn't just told this is a workout you create. These are contraindicators. Things are things you're going to look out for. So when you're in your class, if you use that knowledge base that you have and say, okay, this person has XYZ issue. If I know and I've spoken with them ahead of time and they're new, and they say, oh, Dennise, I can't do XYZ, I will say to them, you know what? When you take class, I need you to do this exercise this way. And while I'm teaching class, I'm telling everyone, okay, I'm training at this mid-level. If you have a little more strength and a little more experience, you can go higher or pick up a heavier weight. And just as I would in a standard in-person class, you know what, if this isn't challenging you anymore, maybe go up a couple of pounds if you have the weight. Hey, if you don't have another set of weights, because most people don't at home, right? If you don't have another set of weights, can you double up on your 2-pounders and use a 4-pounder? I mean, I've had to talk with people about, oh, Dennise, I don't have any weights. Okay, get some water bottles. Trust me, I'll get you a workout, And that part of it, it really does come from the knowledge we bring to be able to say, hey, look, I'm about to show you how to do XYZ exercise. If you have this issue, this is the way I want you to do it. Just be mindful. If you have a shoulder issue, this isn't really what you want to do, pull back on it. And then I have people that go on vacation and they come back and they're like, oh, I feel so like out of it. I don't feel strong. I'm like, you've been away a very long time. Do me a favor. Don't expect to do what you were doing full throttle before you went. Let's build back up to it. Or people that got sick with COVID and were coming back. So those are the same things we do if we were in person. So I do it here when we're online. But the new people coming in, I always start them at the level. And I say, hey, you know what, follow me. I twisted my knee a month ago. I'm like, hey, do what I'm doing if you have knee issues, you know? So my people who were with me for a while, they knew how to do it. But I'm like, hey, I have a knee issue. Guess what? You get to see what you should be doing if you have a knee issue or this issue.
And you brought up a good point that was going to lead me to my very next question. What about equipment issues? Because you've got that really cool multi-station gym behind you. I would imagine many people probably don't. Do your members have dumbbells, resistance bands, or pieces of equipment like that at home?
Yes, and they do. Not the gym, although some of them may. I have some members that I can see where they're working out, which is another reason that I love doing it virtually, because I'm getting to talk to people. My main thing is getting people who may not work out because they can't get to a gym, or they, for whatever reason, they can't get to a gym. And showing them, you can do this in your home. And then they see this big monster, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not expecting you to have the monster. What I am asking you to do, get a set of weights or get a resistance band. Again, comes into that knowledge that we get from our training. I've got somebody who doesn't have weights. I'm going to show you how to do that same exercise. I'll pull out my band. I'll show everyone to do it with the weight, and then I'll pull out my bands and do it with that person with the bands so that they know. Showing them modification. That goes the same thing with people. I've got people of all ages that take my classes. I've had very, 20-year-olds, 20, 30-year-olds, and I've had people who are in my age range now, 60s. And I'll, the ones that need to go a little slower, not that 60-year-olds can't do this, I know, but I also show them the modifications. It's about doing what you can do. And what equipment do you have? They let me know, and I'll tell them, hey, does anybody not have this equipment? I'll tell you what to do without the equipment. I've had people work out without the equipment at all. No equipment at all. Still going to work you out.
When somebody joins your classes for the very first time, is there any kind of health history questionnaire they fill out, or they just join and they tell you what their problems are right then and there before class, or how does that work?
For group fitness, and again, with personal training, I go through the same I would go through if I'm getting a new PT client. Same as if they were in person with me. They've got to fill out the questionnaires, the health history, and all that stuff for that. But when it comes to group fitness, just like it was in the gym, they fill out when they sign up on my platform. There is a form that they have a liability and questionnaire, knowing that they're taking liability for taking this course and this class, and they sign that before they can join a class. So I'll have folks that will have even a guest, because my members will say, oh, Dennise, can my sister log in? I'm telling her about it. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll give her a guest pass. They still have to go in, sign up, and fill out that form, and then they'll get a free guest pass so that they can. They are signing something. If they happen to mention that they have an issue, I take note of it, but the health history is saying, that's why I also give cues, is that this is liability, you're accepting the liability. And check with your own doctor about any recommendations, that typical disclaimer.
Have you ever run into a situation where someone basically indicated that they had like a major health problem, and you was like, oh, no, you got to go to the doctor first?
Oh, yeah. I've done, and just as I would in the gym. There are people who I have said, you know what, this may not be the right class for you. I have been fortunate that when people have had a significant issue and they told me ahead of time, when I say, hey, I saw you do the gym, they'll say, Dennise, should I be taking that class? And I'll be honest with them and say, you know what, this is not going to be the right class for you. You might want to take this. If you decide that you must take the class, know that I don't want you doing X, Y, and Z, because I know for sure that's going to hurt you. But I've had people, I say, I have a cardio class. You can just do that and sit in a chair if you want. But I do want you to go to a doctor. If they have something that has to do with blood pressure or those significant issues, I ask them, no, I can't let you take this class because I know the issue you're dealing with. And I'm not a doctor, and you need to make sure ahead of time. So it's the same thing as if we were in person.
In terms of personal trainer insurance, did you run into any snafus when you transitioned from live in person to online training?
I didn't run into any like major issues except cost. It was, I did recently change my insurance because I joined IDEA, the fitness, and they had insurance there, and their insurance, their costs included, virtual fitness training. So now I do all my training live. That's another decision that I made. All my training is done live. So that I'm giving the cues and I'm talking with folks, rather than just handing off an exercise program and saying, go do the program, come back to me in a week or a month or whatever. So that's another way that I control my liability, because I see what people are doing when they're doing it, except for group fitness. And that's why my group fitness classes are taught the way they're taught. But for virtual fitness, I didn't really have any issue. The biggest issue I had was when I was training in my house, finding a insurance company that would cover training in my home, because that's a different animal.
Yeah, and so can you expand on that? You're training in your home. What was that like for insurance? What did they say about that when you said, "Hey, I'm training in my home"?
You had to. Now I don't do it in my home anymore because moving virtually. But when I was training in my home, I had a couple of clients that would come here, and I had to get insurance that covered me wherever I trained, including in my home. There are some insurance companies that won't do that. So you do have to look around and find one that covers you in your home as well as anywhere else you go. And I used to wonder, well, why not? If it follows me, it followed me into my home. But for whatever reason, the underwriter wouldn't take it. Now, the insurance company I was with for years made that change. Ironically, they made the change when COVID pandemic hit. And I really don't know why, because I'm not on that side, but when the pandemic hit and I had to renew my insurance, I was told I was no longer covered by the program that I had to train in my home. So that was another reason going online was so important to me. And they said I could go to, I guess, a sister company or something and get that insurance if I wanted, but they would no longer cover it. Don't know what their impetus was, but when they made that choice, going online also helped me with that, just made sure my liability was still covered.
It's a great business tip you brought up. If you are a personal trainer thinking about this, look at that insurance policy. Is that going to cover you for virtual training? I don't think that's something a lot of people consider. So I think that's a great tip. If you were mentoring someone who wants to do online training like you're doing now, are there any business tips or tips of the trade that you would offer them to say, hey, this is going to make your life a lot easier?
There's a couple things. When I first started, I looked at what I thought was everyone else doing this, because there are other people who are doing virtual, and I'm like, oh, I could never do the production ability they have and all that. Not thinking that, well, depending upon their level, they probably have a production crew behind them as well, if you're looking at camera angles and so forth, right? So I had run out, and I had a friend who was in photography, and I said, what are the best lighting? What do I need for lighting in this? And I ended up, it was so funny. I bought lighting equipment and everything, pulled out so much money, and it was challenging because now I'm doing it in my home to set that up all the time. And I didn't have a separate room to make a studio, right? And I didn't realize how much money I poured into it when all I really needed to do was get a ring light and a camera, So I put out a lot of money. I learned a lot. So now I know what not to do moving forward, and for equipment. I would say definitely make sure you know how to know what equipment you need, and it doesn't have to be a ton of equipment. You just need a good mic, a good camera, and a light. Also your music. The other great thing was realizing, since I do it live, the music I have to teach fitness classes, I can do while I'm teaching live. Now, if I wanted to record classes, I have to get the license for that, right? Royalty-free licenses where it can be recorded, or else, those platforms, YouTube and so forth, are going to kick that video. So knowing those intricacies, I think the business side of it is so important, because you want to protect yourself. You want to make sure that what you post, if you are going to be posting anything, doesn't get kicked off the platform, right? And you want to make sure that you're working within your budget, because as much as I love fitness, my goal to help people stay fit, it also needs to pay for itself. I used to joke around and say, hey, if I won the lottery, I'd be teaching fitness for free. Let's be honest, I'm not winning the lottery right now, and I need to at least make sure that this business is bringing in some income to pay for itself, if not anything else, right? So make it scalable to what you can manage, make it scalable to what you can afford, and no, you don't have to come out the gate super production ability, because honestly, people are coming for your classes. People are coming to see you. Don't try to be like everyone else online. They have everyone else online. People are coming for your classes. If you've been teaching group fitness in the gym, the same reason they came to work out with you when you were in the gym is the reason they're going to come online. You're going to have those people that know you and just bring your personality, your music. Sometimes it's music that people like in your class. Bring your music and don't try to be like everyone else. Be you. Know what others are doing, but be you in your class. And that's what's going to get people coming to your classes, because they're coming for the experience of not just working out, but working out with you. And I say it to myself. My clients have to remind me every now and then, because I'm like, oh, wow. And they're like, no, Dennise, keep going. So keep that community going and be you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. A lot of people think when they go online, and I had thought this myself when I first started doing YouTube videos and TikTok and all that stuff, you got to be perfect. And I finally had to have that conversation with myself and say, listen, if they want polished, they're going to go to CNN.
There you go.
This is me, and I'm in my messy little office, and if you want polish, you'll go to NPR or something like that. Not me. I'm just me. So no, I think that's a really good point you brought up, and a lot of people do suffer from that. I'm not perfect. I shouldn't do this. I think most people these days, they don't want perfect. They want real.
Exactly. And I think we struggle with that in the fitness world sometimes, because when we look at different things throughout the years, when I started in fitness, when I went to my first fitness convention for AAAI 2006, and I walked into that room and I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Because when I started in fitness, I was so unhealthy. That's the reason I started in it. And I was taking classes with a step aerobics instructor. I fell in love with the class. And funny story, one day we're teaching the class and I knew this routine down pat. And I had totally lost myself, right, in this class. My eyes were closed and I'm just listening to music and doing the routine. I had not realized she turned the music off. And so I was still going. And the class was silent and I didn't know it. And when I finally opened my eyes and realized nobody's moving, and they clapped, and it was so funny. And the instructor came to me afterwards. She says, you should be teaching. And I said, I'm 250 pounds. What do you mean I should be teaching fitness? And she said, you need to be teaching fitness.
Yeah.
And she started talking to me about, AAAI and different things. And I said, well, what's it going to take? And I went to my first convention and I saw the community, the different people, and the different classes, and the different instructors. And I started saying, wait a minute, maybe I can do this. I'm still 250 pounds, but maybe I can do this. And over the course of these past almost 20 years, seeing the changes and seeing this, but it started with that understanding that anybody can work out. Everybody's doing it for different reasons. And my goal was to present this in a way that anybody can say, I can take Denise's class if it's just one of my basic classes. And as long as I don't lose sight of that, if you don't lose sight of your why, the other things can fall into line. You won't have to be perfect, but you're perfect for the people who are coming to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're perfect for that person that needs you to be the one that at least introduces them to fitness and takes away their fear.
Right. It's a really good point. Reminds me of that tagline you have on your website that I did notice. We're all an athlete. We're just on a different journey.
Yes, we're running different races at different paces. The key is keep running.
Right.
And I'm not a runner, so I tell people I'm not a runner. I train runners. I do train runners for Spartan races and for Disney and all that, but I'm not a runner. I study it, I know the basics, and I train them and get out of the way and let them do the job, right? And that's what I look at. I don't have to be able to do everything that I'm coaching somebody to do, right? I took that from watching football players. I'm like, those football players are typically lean and mean and crushing things, right? And sometimes the coaches aren't lean and mean, right? I don't have to be perfect. My knowledge and wisdom to help that person achieve their personal best is what they need. Right?
You bring up a good point, and it kind of parallels the conversation I had with Jessica Maurer, who's a business strategist in fitness. And by the time people see us, her video will be on YouTube as well. And she was also talking about the reputation problem that the fitness business has. And that is, if you, for instance, go to Canva, which is a very popular, graphics website, you type in personal trainer, you see people with big biceps and they don't look real. And the fitness business industry, they have this reputation that you have to be quote unquote perfect. And that's not true. And I can tell you that I've heard from people over the years who've said to me, why would I want to train with that, and not to offend anybody, a 20-something-year-old teeny bopper with, 2% body fat when I'm a 55-year-old woman who is, not 2% body fat. Why would I want to work with that when I'd rather work with somebody who's more like me? And I think that's something the fitness industry really doesn't embrace as well as they should. So, yeah. The other question I wanted to bring up to is, what camera are you using to teach your classes?
I've used very expensive cameras. I've used the EMI, I think it's an EMI 3, and I've used the typical non-generic brand and all of them are, gotten off of Amazon. Whenever one died, I pick up another one. And the one I'm currently using is an EMI, which I do like this one. The only thing is that it doesn't pivot the way I'd want it to. So, but the stand I have it on. And I finally found the right ring for it, light ring. And again, didn't have to put out a lot of money. It was just perseverance to find what worked for my studio.
Yeah, and you've just basically got a basic camera that you grabbed off of Amazon. You got a ring light that you most likely got off of Amazon, and they're not expensive. So for people who want to do this virtual training, they should not go into credit card debt to do it.
No, do not, because it's going to draw your focus. Trust me, when I first started, like I said, I bought all the big equipment and everything, and thinking, a lot of the big equipment, not all of it, a lot of it, and thinking, oh, that's what I needed. No, that's not. Because at the end of the day, you can have the best production on the face of the planet. Your classes are not good if you're not doing the work to make the classes and the connection with your people. Because, I think about how many different platforms have come and gone, with the cookie cutter workout programs, right? They have their time, and not knocking any of them, but they have their time. But for someone to stay in the business and keep transitioning and moving with the business in whatever aspect it needs to be for their life, if you're in credit card debt to run the business, it is inevitable that your thoughts will then also continue to lead as that builds up towards the financial aspect, which pulls away from what you're trying to do. Impact people's lives with their fitness. And I speak from personal. Whenever I started feeling like, oh, Dennise, you've got to make more money at this, come on. And I would start leaning and getting pulled away from the money aspect. Money is important, but for me, it was, I started not impacting my people the way I wanted to. because it's human nature. Anyone, if you're married and you're having credit or money issues, the relationship starts getting messed up. If you're in anything, if you're on a job and you're having money issues and there's that relation issue, how well? I had to remember to pull back and make sure I'm setting up a business that if only X amount of people join my virtual studio, I can still operate the business with integrity without worrying about money. And that's what it takes from the business side of stepping back and counting up the cost before you do all of that. Because if you can't look at this as, am I going to be okay even if only 5 people showed up today? If I'm going to be worried about the money, it's going to draw my attention from impacting fitness.
Dennise Jones, this has been a great conversation. How can people find you and find out more about your classes?
Oh, they can visit my website at DeniseJonesFitness.com. Now, my name is spelled with 2 N's, but if you put in 1 N, it'll still go to the same website. I made sure of that. They can check out my website. The classes are listed there. I've got my 30-minute classes for the weeknights by popular demand from my clients. They only wanted 30 minutes of fitness during the week because they're all busy, people working during the day. And then I have weekend classes. You'll also get to see the link to the platform that I use. If you click on the link, it'll take you right over to studio bookings and you can see how things I have set up there.
Wonderful. Dennise Jones, I really appreciate your time, and this has been a great conversation.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I've enjoyed it.